All right, welcome to Live from My Drum Room. My guest is legendary drummer, author, historian, and beloved member of the British music community, Bob Henrit. Bob was my guest on December 15th, 2021, so be sure to check out that episode if you haven't seen it. We cover a lot in this new episode, including his friend, the one and only Keith Moon of The Who, his work with Argent and the Kinks. In the past 2 years, Bob was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So he wanted to come on my show to talk about how he's doing and how he's managing it. Not surprisingly, he still has that great sense of humor. I know you're really going to enjoy this show. So come along for the ride. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you on the other side. Please welcome Britain's favorite son and a national treasure, the great Bob Henrit.
Hey, we're going.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey.
Got a lot of fans watching today. Thank you
really? Have I got a lot of fans?
You've got a lot of fans.
All right, good.
This guy's one of them.
Oh, great, thank you. I was just looking at your bit in the book. In the Simmons book.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I wrote about you before I even knew you.
Well, I have to get a copy of that Simmons book. Someone else mentioned that too.
It would look good on your wall.
Well, maybe I wonder if I could get a copy and somehow get it to you to sign it for me, and then have you post it back to me or something, if that's not too much trouble.
Leave it with me.
Okay, I'll work on it on my side too.
Okie doke. Cool.
Good to see you, Bob. You look great. You're a pretty ageless guy, I have to say. In all the years I've known you.
Smooth talker.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm going to just share a story. We first met during my time at Zildjian, I think about 25 years ago, at one of the get-togethers in London at John Henry's. And I'm mentioning this because one of the guys watching the show right now, Bob Sidlowski, who later went on to be a writer for Modern Drummer, said he got great inspiration from you writing your reviews in International Musician back in the 70s, I think, right?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I first became aware of you and realized all the sessions you'd done and all the bands you played with. But I'll just say this, Bob, when you walked into the room at John Henry's that night, and Tina was kind enough, Tina Clark, our dear friend, made the introduction, but I knew who you were the second I saw you walk in. You were, you're larger than life and a legend. So,
well, I try.
Well, I like to say we hit it off instantly, and we had a great conversation, and I felt like I'd known you for many years.
Yeah, and of course, Glenn is now gone, as you probably know.
Yeah. I know.
Those were the days, eh?
Yeah, that really hit hard when I got the news about Glenn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy, really good guy.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody watching, Glenn Thomas was the guy that ran Simmons in the USA, America, the guy that I work for in California 40 years ago. Hard to believe, but wow. So Bob, how are you feeling? You look great.
I'm not too bad. I've been burning the candle at both ends today. I started out with Pilates, then I went for a walk, then I did boxercise. Now you may not know what boxercise is, but it's exercising, but boxing exercising. You're not actually hitting anybody on the nose, but it's that sort of thing, and it's hard. It's tough. So I'm doing whatever I can, really. And there's a lot of things that I can't do. I believe it or not, I can't ride a bike. I don't have the balance. And that balance, or that lack of balance, transmits to playing the drums. And I never knew that you needed to have balance to play the drums. You have to be balanced on what you're doing. And I never knew that. And the other thing that I never knew before I knew what was wrong with me, if you look down at your hi-hat next time you're playing, you'll find that it's doing stuff that you're not doing. It just sort of keeps going along with what's going on the bass drum. And with me, I found that the hi-hat was playing it was going up and down, and I was playing minim triplets. So if it went don't do 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 do, it went Now, it's a bit difficult to actually think, well, I'll do that, but it was just happening. It was part of the deal. So there's a few things. I can't swim. Can you believe that? I can't swim anymore. The kids threw me in the pool, and they had to dive in and rescue me. I mean, it's ridiculous, and there's lots of things that you can't do, but you just have to get on with it. And I'm getting ready for the Kinks convention, which is in November, so I better be ready.
Oh, fantastic! That's in London somewhere.
Yeah, it's with the Cast-Off Kinks. You know about the Cast-Off Kinks? It's guys who say they were in the Kinks and were sacked. Ray said no. Ray says nobody in the Kinks was ever sacked, but there's a whole gang of people who were. So bless him. So they're called the Cast-Off Kinks, and everybody wants to see them because this is what tribute bands are all about. If you're not going to see the real thing, well, go and see something else. That's there's an Eagles band that are unbelievably good, unbelievably. And so, have you ever been in a tribute band?
No,
It's
I've seen
very
many
interesting. It's interesting because you're just being Ringo for the moment, or you're being Charlie, or that's what you're doing, and it is great fun. And I don't know if you know, if you've obviously played in your life a few Rolling Stones tunes, because that's what happens. Hey, let's do Brown Sugar or whatever. And what Charlie did is he never played the fourth beat, so he would play. That was his hi-hat, and everybody thought, why is he not going? He's going,
yeah,
and it's because it doesn't sound like the Rolling Stones if you don't do that. So you have to play like Charlie to sound like for the Rolling Stones to work. And I mean, there's a lot of drummers, too many to mention, who drove the band and made it what it was. And I think that's a bit of a sign for what we're all trying to do. You know, we do want to be unique, of course, but we also want to be having fun.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the key right there, is having fun. And I want to read a couple of quick comments from people watching live right now.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul Warsop said, "Love working with Bob at Arbiters. True gentleman."
He used to work at Arbiter. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, Bob, you're such. I said this before the last time when you were on my show years ago. You're such a embedded part of the whole scene in London. Like I think of you as like your hands were in every part of the pie back then. You know?
Yeah.
Like what a history.
Yeah. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to do as much as I could. I mean, I was one of the things. I was going to America a lot when you and I met, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a drum shop like Manny's, or more specifically, like the one in Boston? What was it called?
Jack's Drum Shop.
Jack's, yeah.
Yeah.
And because they weren't just drum shops, they were places to hang out and places to meet drummers and places to be and places to feel good. And so I thought, why don't we do that in London? So we did, and Keith Moon wouldn't stop coming in.
I heard, yeah. You guys became good friends, right? I mean,
we really did. Yeah, he was dangerous, dangerous in as much as he could get me into trouble. And I'll do you a very quick Keith Moon story. We were in the West End of London, and we were walking along past a club called the Two Eyes, which of course isn't there anymore. And everybody played at it, and we're walking by it. And next to the Two Eyes is the coffee shop. Now, it's not a coffee shop that makes coffee. It's a coffee shop that sells coffee beans. So Mooney puts his hand down and takes two of these packets of coffee, puts them in his pocket. And I said, Mooney, what are you doing that for? He said, I don't know, but there'll be something. So we walked on down to Leicester Square Tube Station, which is a very long tube. goes down in deeply into the ground. And Mooney, the light bulb went on in his head, and he got out the coffee beans and poured them down the middle of the up escalator and the down escalator. So now people are trying to come up from down below, and Mooney's I still can't. Anyway, so Mooney's coffee beans are bouncing down at the bottom, and it's the rush hour, and people are falling over them. And of course, Mooney, this is exactly what Mooney wanted. And the people are falling over, and he just did it on a whim. But some of his whims were, you didn't want to be too close to them.
Yeah.
But we're not going to see his like again.
No.
We ain't. Although lots of people have tried to be him.
I'm glad that. Yeah, you strike me as like you knew the limits. You knew how much of his shenanigans you could participate in before you went, okay, I'm going to get in trouble here if I do this.
Yeah, exactly. But you couldn't escape from him. I mean, he'd come round to my house just down the road from where I'm now living at 3:00 in the morning. So he'd be coming back from a club. He'd be drunk, and he'd come round to my place, park outside, knock on the door and say, "Dear boy, what about a cup of tea?" And I would say, "Mooney, it's 3:00 in the morning." "Yes, but what about a cup of tea?" So we'd then sit there talking about bloody drums at 3:00 in the morning. And
Wow.
that was what he was like.
Yeah.
He tried to sell me, I'll stop after this, but he tried to sell me a whole car full of drums, snare drums. And he said, "These are for you, dear boy." And I said, "I can't take these, Keith." He said, "Yeah, dear boy, these are for you." Anyway, I didn't take them, and I then discovered they weren't his anyway. They were the Who's. Mooney didn't own much.
I'll bet. Oh my God. Yeah. And I know he cited you as one of his favorite drummers, and
he did.
That has to be such a great honor. Beyond,
yeah. Or is it a cleft stick to hit me with? Oh, we can't talk to him. He's one of Mooney's favorite drummers.
That's true. It could have meant you didn't work again in London, but obviously that didn't happen. So
no,
you kept on working. Can I read you a comment from our old friend? I think you know this man, Rick Drum, who worked for Remo for many years. Yeah, and
he did.
Vic, yeah, and he wanted to just say that, "Hi, Bob. I still remember our tennis match with Gary Mann about 40 years ago."
Only 100 years ago.
His knees still hurt.
They do. We didn't go skiing together, though, but Gary Mann and I did go skiing once when we were at NAMM, and we thought, what should we do tomorrow? Let's go skiing, as you do. So we went. Well, fun. Yeah, I used to love NAMM. NAMM was just fantastic. You met everybody you knew, everybody you wanted to know. They were all there, and you met all of your favorites, and it was just great.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not quite the same anymore. Do you still go?
I was up until COVID. I was going even after I'd left Zildjian. But you're right. It started to change even before that, and then with COVID, it really a lot of companies just sort of backed away, and some have gone back, some haven't. So I haven't gone since then in about 5 years. So
yeah. But it was fun. It was something to look forward to at the end of the year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
besides
it was.
Christmas and New Year, of course.
No, but yeah, exactly. No, it really was. There was a time when, like you say, it was such a great gathering spot for everybody, and there was, events at night. You could go and see bands and music, and lots of fun.
Speaking of rice puddings, did you know Rick Drum was a circus drummer?
I did know that. Yes, a good one too.
I always marveled at that because it's something that I couldn't be. I don't think I could look up that high either. When the trapeze was going and sustain a roll.
Yeah, but that's a hard job, though. I know. I mean, that's like you really got to be on it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, are you playing? Are you still sitting behind the drums from time to time to play a little
Yeah,
bit?
yes, I do. We moved, me and the lovely Ricky, and we came where we used to live, believe it or not. And the big problem with Parkinson's is if you're not careful and you fall over, the next thing you know is you're in hospital while everything mends.
Hmm.
So stairs are very dangerous for guys with Parkinson's. So we were determined that we would get rid of the old place, which was huge and had a. I mean, I could have more drums there than you could have in a drum shop, and I did, of course. Anyway, so I it was obvious that we needed to have a lift if we could, elevator,
Hmm.
and we were looking for months, and eventually we found one. So we're not falling down the stairs anymore. But the problem with Parkinson's is that your balance goes, and I didn't realize that the balance was important for playing the drums. I'd never ever given that a thought,
Hmm.
and now I do know, and it's as far as playing is concerned, yes. I mean, I think the last time I played was with Russ Ballard. We did a roulette sort of get together, and the place was packed. And I all I had was one drum, a sort of pancake type drum,
Hmm.
and beaters, and I played. And everybody else played, but we hadn't even said we were going to do this. And we played, and it sounded just like, I mean, believe it or not, it sounded like the records.
Wow.
And there I am playing with nothing. And to give the truth to that, we did a Kinks album where I could only have a certain amount of drums. Bass player Jim could only have one bass. Dave could only have one guitar. Keyboard player could only have one keyboard. And guess what? Once we put it down, it's with those limitations, it sounded like the original Kinks.
How
So,
about that? Yeah.
and I mean, we were always amazed. Absolutely. Well, I'm still amazed by things that we've done, and of course, God's been on my side. You know, I've been blessed, as people say. I know it's a cliched thing, but I have been blessed, and so have you. And we were born in just the right period.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
we'd been any later, it wouldn't have been the right period. And if we'd been any earlier, we'd have been playing with Bill Haley.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. No, yeah, I agree completely though, Bob. I say that often. I'm so glad that I was growing up at a time when I could enjoy all the music you were making. And it was such a big part of me being a drummer was listening to you and Charlie and Ringo and Mitch and all the guys and
Yeah.
a
But you
great
know, we
time.
stole it from you guys. We listened to
Well,
what you guys were doing and we got it wrong. And the reason we got it wrong is that you were never on TV. None of those guys were ever on TV, not the American guys.
yeah.
And so you couldn't see how things were done. And for example, Peggy Sue, I it wasn't until I played with the Crickets that I realized I've been playing Peggy Sue wrong all my life. But not only had I been playing it wrong, so had everybody else I knew. And
Yeah.
we would play it as hand to hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't go like that. It goes, and it's a paradiddle. Well, we most of us didn't know a paradiddle from well, whatever. We just didn't know what a paradiddle was, and so we never really got into it. Now, of course, I don't know about you. I'd rather play a paradiddle than anything else. Somehow, paradiddle works. But when we began, it wasn't something that we did. We never
Yeah.
knew we never knew it, and so we never had the opportunity to play it. Anyway,
No, yeah, that's a great analogy because, you know, we all grew up at a time, well, I know many of us grew up at a time when, like you say, you couldn't see how things were done. You had to listen to it and figure it out. And
yeah,
sometimes you figured it out right, but sometimes you didn't. You heard it and it sounded a certain way. And like you say, then you realized later that what Jerry Allison was doing
Yeah, yeah.
was
Well, then
imperative.
it came back to you guys. So Jerry Allison showed us. We send it back to America, to you guys, and you copied it. You copied what we were doing, which was wrong. And there were lots of things that we actually got wrong, but it was all part of life's rich pageant, of course. And it was great fun, and that's one of the things about drumming specifically is if you're not laughing, you might just be in the wrong occupation.
Right, right. Well, speaking of chaps that make us laugh, our friend Dave Maddox is watching right now live, and
Hey, Dave.
he says, love you both. And we love you
Hey.
back, Dave.
So yeah, we do. Yeah, we all love you. Everybody loves Dave. Did you
Everybody
know
loves
he was
Dave.
in a dance band?
I think I did know that. I think,
Yeah, it was a. We all started off in rock and roll groups, and Dave was in proper employment in a dance band. Weren't
yeah.
you, Dave?
Oh man. Well, I was just going to say that I remember Louis Belson was a dear friend of mine, and I asked if he was still playing because I remember Louis was, when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, was still playing quite a bit.
Yeah.
But he was taking some medication, and I just, I just asked, if kind of how you were handling all that as far as, playing and keeping that part of your life going. But but you explained it, and I understand that completely. That it's a balance thing, and I think Lou even mentioned
Well,
something about that.
I did, but I didn't realize it until I got Parkinson's, that it was a balance thing. And I didn't realize I had Parkinson's until I kept falling off my bike. Now, that sounds funny, but I kept falling off. I didn't
Mm.
have the balance anymore. And, but the fact that I couldn't swim, that's ridiculous, but I couldn't. And so I meet these guys. There are about a dozen of us, and we meet every other Wednesday. And they are, as I probably said, they're all ex-musicians, and they've all got Parkinson's. And whether there's a correlation between that, I have no idea.
Mm.
But I'd like somebody to investigate it. So anyway, I started doing uh, drum circles, and you didn't need to be a drummer to be in it. You just needed to have to be interested in doing it. And so we would get together, and the first one I did, there were 60 people turned up. We didn't have any drums. We all had plastic buckets, and I would dish out the drumsticks, and they would play on their plastic buckets. And to make it so they knew what they were doing, I told them a load of mnemonics. Like everybody now knows, I guess, flats in Dagenham. And so, and that was on most 60s or most 70s records anyway, flats in Dagenham. So they could all play flats in Dagenham, and I just had to shout flats in Dagenham, and they would do it. And there's another one which it's very interesting, this one for you, because it's the black cat whittles in the white cat's eye. And this was something that Dave Simmons had a load of guys working for him who, if they weren't working for Simmons, they would have been making guidance systems for missiles. They were that bright. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and so Dave thought that he ought to show them what the hell a drum was supposed to be capable of. So he made them learn the black cat whittles in the white cat's eye. Now that goes. It isn't not how it goes. It's got some doubles, it's got some lifts and everything. And so Dave, these guys didn't have lunch break. They had to sit there doing the black cat whittles in the white cat's eye. So I would tell the audience about black cat whittles in the white and shagabun and boom shagga and all the ones that we use, and they got it. They understood it, and halfway through we had a cup of coffee. It was great fun, and it is going to continue.
Yeah.
I went to this sounds ridiculous. I went to a Christmas party for people with who were suffering from what I was suffering from, and we're all sitting. Well, we weren't. I walked into the room, and unfortunately, if you've got Parkinson's really badly, you have the shakes.
Mhm.
And I'd never seen a whole room full of people with that, and it taught me something, that this is what you get, and you got to deal with it. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And when were you I remember you sending me a message a while back. When were you diagnosed with it, Bob? How long ago? Do you remember?
It probably let's say 2 years ago. But the point about Parkinson's is nobody can tell you when it started.
I see.
You might think you knew when things began to go wrong, and maybe you're not playing as hard as you were, maybe you're not as angry as you were before, and you don't have the angst and so on. So where when it began, I have no idea, but I guess I knew there was something wrong. And when I kept falling off my bike, I
And that,
realized
yeah.
there's something going on here.
Yeah. And that's very interesting. Yeah. I wonder how many other people have had, and you probably know this from your sort of support group, how many
From the
people have
gang,
had
yeah.
like a similar incident where something that they could do easily, they couldn't do anymore. And that was did it make you then want to go see a neurologist, or did you go to your
Oh
doctor
yeah,
who
well,
then,
all of the above, of course, that's what we did. But we mostly we sit and talk about it, and that's the important thing, to talk about it.
Mhm.
These guys, believe it or not, these guys, I didn't believe when I first met them. We were in a pub, and they were drinking. Now, what I have discovered with Parkinson's, if you want to fall over, have a drink, because you will
Yeah.
eventually. And so these guys were all drinking. I thought, wow, these guys are really brave. And I was still falling over by then. But I mean, it happens. It happens to all of us, and it is funny, but not if you get dragged off to the hospital and find you've broken something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at a certain age, not yours but mine, it's very easy to fall over and crack something. I mean, I have a cracked femur, believe it or not, and why am I telling you this? Anyway, I've got a cracked femur, and and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't tie it up. They can't do anything with it. They just leave it. It's like with ribs. They can't
Mhm.
do anything with a rib if you break it anymore.
Right. Right. You have to just let it heal itself over time, basically.
Well, yeah, I'm waiting.
I, yeah, I understand.
I
Yeah.
made myself laugh.
Are you, I think of you as such a prolific writer. You've been involved in, like you said, the Simmons book. I think the Heyman book as well.
Oh yeah, I'm on my 12th book.
Okay,
I
yeah,
didn't I didn't I didn't think there was that much I could write about drums, but there is, and of course, there's one book that hasn't come out yet uh, because it's not finished, but it's about the 100 drummers of our time and what they taught us. So it's everybody that we knew or wanted to know, and it's better if it's better if I'm talking about somebody I know, because that's the way it should be. You know,
yeah,
you can't look up somebody and then sort of well. Anyway, I decided that I was going to. This was for Mike Dolbear, and I got to 90 guys that I was talking about, and it's going to be a big book when it comes out, if it
great.
comes out. But the
Yeah,
other thing that hasn't been done yet, and that's the book of the European drum, because there's far more to drums in Europe than anybody ever talks about. And of course, we talk about Trixon, and of course, we talk about Sonor, but there are so many other drum manufacturers on the other side of the Iron Curtain and so on.
yes, yeah. And there's some
So
Italian and
that's
French drum
one that's
companies. Yeah,
well, that one's in the offing. But
yeah,
I've been writing travelogues for, well, ever since I was on the road. So when I got on the road in '61, I started writing travelogues, And I just wanted to scribble it down. And I thought one day I didn't have any kids, but I thought one day my kids are going to want to know where I've been because I was never there. And you know, that's what happens. We were in Mallorca, and there was believe it or not, there was an aircraft carrier in the bay, and I was sitting there watching it, and this guy came along and said, "Can I sit next to you?" I said, "Sure." And it turned out he was the captain of the blinking aircraft carrier. Now, how many of those are you going to bump into? So,
wow.
So he told me he was the captain. And I said, "So how long do you go away for?" He knew I was a musician. I said, how long do you go away for?" He said, 6 months. I said, "That's a long time. That's what we do." He said, he had a great line. He said, "If you're a fireman, you have to go to a fire every now and again." And of course you do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so most of my writing's been about observations and things that I've noticed when we were around. As you probably know, if you're on a bus tour, which is an easy way of going around America, you either go to sleep or you look out the window. And if you're going through Wyoming, there's a horizon at the front, there's a horizon at the back, and there's one to the left and there's one to the right, and that's all there is. And there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But me, I was looking out of the windows just to see if there was something there. And I never. I mean, it's like looking for UFOs. I don't suppose you've ever done that, have you?
I have actually. Yes.
Oh yeah. Well,
I
most musicians do. You know,
yeah.
because you're sitting in a bus or a van at stupid o'clock in the morning, and and you're looking for UFOs.
Yeah.
And have you seen a UFO?
I haven't. No, I haven't. Well, I think I might have seen something, but there's so much stuff in the sky between like shooting
Yeah.
stars and things like that. But I will tell you, I don't want to detract from your story, but for many years, I was a big. I joined an organization called MUFON, which is Mutual UFO Network here in the States.
All right.
And I was really big time into it, like following the sightings and things like that. So, yeah.
Did you have purple laces in your shoes?
No, I didn't.
That's supposed to be a sign. I can't remember, like the Guild of St. Christopher or something like that. And Dave Davies is in it. And I don't think I've actually seen. Are we going to get into trouble for all of this?
No.
Anyway, if there are UFOs out there, I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, me either. But I think they're out there, and some people may think I'm crazy for thinking that, and that's fine. But I actually have no doubt in my mind that they're out there.
No, I don't think you're crazy because of that. There are other things that you're crazy because of. Sure. Well, first of all, because you're a drummer. It comes with the territory.
And I'm left-handed, as you can see.
There's that. You're sinister.
I don't know if I said this since we've been on the air, but I know when we were doing our sound check off the air, I recently got these Heyman drums, and I wanted to make sure I had them in full view while I had you on the show because.
All right, and there they are.
Yeah, I think of you as a, when I became aware of those drums way back in the day. I remember you being one of their guys and Ainsley Dunbar and
Ainsley, yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave wasn't, Dave Mattox. He just happened to be sitting on a Heyman drum kit, and somebody took his photograph, and the next thing he knew, he was in the catalog.
Is that right?
Is that right, Dave?
Well, he's still watching. He's saying to ask you about your first visit to the Ludwig factory and liberating some drum parts.
Yes. Okay. I've always been confused about Ludwig drums, which have numbers that are corresponding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I have seen them being made, and I've stood next to the ladies who were putting the badges on the drums, and they would put their hand into a box, take a badge out, and stick it on a drum. They wouldn't think, "Oh, hang on, we need one of these for 12 by 8." It's none of that. So I've always been aware. I've been wary of that. But it was. I took a. Oh gosh, you remember all this, Dave? I took a super sensitive back to Ludwig because it had been beaten to death in the early Argent days. Took it in and said, "Can you do anything with this? It needs a new mechanism." And they said, "Yeah." And while they took it away, they said, the guy said, "I'll check it out." And it was a super sensitive, but anyway, it turned out to have a brass shell. And they only made 12 super sensitives with brass shells. And the guy said, "I'll go and check it out." He came back, "This is one of the 12. And so I thought, great, I'll keep this forever. I went off to America to do a long tour and came back, and a German dealer had gone into my drum store and bought everything there, including that bloody snare drum.
Oh.
So the guy, I mean, he's definitely somewhere in Germany, but how could you possibly find it? But it was a great drum, and I'm sure it still is.
Wow. Is that the drum that's on this song?
Hold your head up.
Yeah.
You'll hear flats in Dagenham in a minute.
Ah, okay. Such a great track. Dave Maddox says, great groove.
It is, isn't it?
It's a great groove.
Yep. Those were the days.
Yeah. Man, what I let's just talk about that for 1 second. I wanted to slide that in somewhere because that was my first exposure to your fabulous drumming.
Oh, right.
Not knowing it was you, but yeah, man.
And the interesting thing is, John, there was a small tambourine hanging on the floor tom. So it was actually making the same sound as the floor tom. So dom diddy bom was coming from the tambourine as well, and it was standing on its edge.
Wow.
And is that a Zildjian gong you've got up there?
I have two gongs. I have a Zildjian and a Paiste gong.
All
The
right.
the Zildjian gong belonged to Jody Lynn Scott
All
when
right.
she was touring with the Who for
Yeah.
Quadrophenia, and the Paiste gong belonged to my late father-in-law Vic Firth.
All right. Of course.
Yeah, so that was a gift, and and that's signed by everybody in the Who except Keith Moon.
All right.
Yeah,
You have
Zach
to
had
wait.
everybody. Yeah, but yeah, I just it's such a so many people are commenting on how great that sounds and how it's one of those songs that when I hear it on the radio even today, it still sounds great. Like sonically, it's got a great drum sound.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I went to a premiere the other day. The Zombies have a film out, and it is very good. It's very, very good. And I went to the premiere the other day, and we everybody was there. Rod was there,
Oh,
and it was
great.
just fabulous. And Colin Blunstone was there, and he was having a birthday that very day. So he's now 80, and Rod is now 80, and I'm older than that. And
Only by a little bit.
Russell is coming up to 80. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, I mean, and were you playing a Heyman kit for that recording? Do you remember? Do you remember what
Oh, absolutely. I did.
you
I
were?
actually had a Gretsch kit that was used if I knew it didn't have to be bangy. And for me, the Heyman was bangy and without trying too hard. Whereas, I mean, if you wanted to have a contained sound, then in those days you had to have a Gretsch.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had one of those and one of a great many others. The house that we lived in, Sin, me and the lovely Ricky, we had 35 drum sets in the loft.
Wow.
It was a detached house, fortunately, but I was always concerned that the loft was going to collapse and all the drums would come down into one of the bedrooms, hopefully without anybody sleeping in them. But that was without counting 55 blinking snare drums.
Wow. God,
Well, it was easy. When I was in the Kinks, it was very simple. I would find something, say, in a mum and pop shop, and I would eventually I'd buy it and send the road crew in, and the drum guys would go in and put it in a box. And the next time I saw it would be in London.
perfect.
Not everybody else has that luxury, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only other person I know that was doing that was our friend Charlie, who
Oh,
would do.
Charlie.
Yeah, he would do a similar process where he'd find something in the States, Steve
Yeah,
Maxwell or someone like that, and then
yeah,
send it to the warehouse. And yeah,
yeah. Yeah, he got a load of Gretsch. No, he got a load of ancient foot pedals from me, hi hats and things, because he was a Gretsch collector, and I ended up with all these very early Gretsch stands, and I'm sure they wouldn't have done the job in the same way that other manufacturers equally wouldn't have done the job.
yeah, yeah.
And if they could let you down, they would.
Absolutely. Well, so Bob, I'm going to just, since I have you here, I'm going to ask you this. Talking about Heyman, were you involved with Arbiter as far as sort of getting the drums off the ground? Were you kind of there
Well,
at that?
you mean the Arbiter AT?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or I meant with Arbiter was the guy that started the Heyman drums, right? Ivor
Yes, yeah.
Arbiter. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there were other drums before that, of course.
Ah,
But
right. Okay.
Ivor had the vision and the money, of course, because you don't just start out and think, I'm going to make a drum kit. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And the work was done, certainly with the Arbiter AT. And with the single screw tuning, I could never work out why it wasn't ridiculously successful. Because who wants to have 12 tuners when you can have one?
Right. Right.
But drummers are conservative with a small C, and they didn't want them for some reason. But I thought the idea was great.
Yeah, yeah.
As was the flats were great too. And then when traps came along, they were successful as well. I think they were all born from not wanting to carry drums anymore if I could help it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the only one.
Yeah. No, I forgot he had a lot of, many forays into the drum world.
Yeah.
Ivor Arbiter. Yeah.
Well,
Man,
there's a book out which is called Crash Bang Wallop, and it's about Ivor. It's available from all good bookshops. I'm
okay.
told.
I regret, I think I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of different times in Frankfurt or maybe a NAMM show. And I regret that I never went over and said hello to him because he's such a fascinating, his history is so fascinating to me.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And he
yours.
wasn't a drummer. He was I think he was a trumpet player, and he could just about play "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" on the trumpet.
Yeah.
He was sent to America during the war to escape from all of what was going on, the Blitz and so on, and he that was the beginning of him making drums. And
yeah. Well, I'm going to read you a nice comment from Andrew Pennington. I just want to read a couple of really nice things that people are saying. Andrew says, "Hello, Bob. It was great to see you last year in Waltham Cross.
oh yes,
I loved your work with the Kinks and sat in on the To the Bone recording at Conk. You were behind the glass on the kit. Cheers, Andy in New York."
all right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Andy.
Yeah. And Matty Roberts is watching and says hello.
All right.
Good old
Hi,
Matty.
Matty.
Yeah. He's a good man. And Yard, our friend Yard Gavrilovich.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Is
you've got,
Yardsy boy watching it?
yeah, he's watching.
Yardsy, oh, hi, Yardsy.
Yeah. But as I said I don't know if you heard my introduction, but you're the favorite son. You're Britain's favorite son. You really are. I mean, you're such a treasure, and all the different things that you do and have done between your writing and your contribution to music, and working in the business, having a shop to service all the drummers in London, and
Yeah. We used the drum store was just down the road from Marquee Studios. And every now and again, a producer would run into the shop and would say something along the lines of, "Are there any drummers in here?" And we'd say, "Well, have a look around. This is a drum shop." He said, "Well, can somebody come and do a session and on the drums?" I said, "Why do you want someone to play the drums?" And they said, "This was in the days of punk." And they said, the drummer has decided he's done it once, and if you didn't get it right, then that's it. It's your fault. So he would go off down the pub. We would go off to Marquee. We'd play on a record without having any idea who it was. It could have been absolutely anybody, and this happened several times.
I think Dave Maddox told us a similar story, a story just like this.
Yeah.
Exact, scenario. Yeah.
What fun.
That's I know. That was a great, an interesting time to be around. I remember when it started happening in the States, the whole groundswell of the punk, movement. And,
it wasn't bad at all. Everybody thought, "Oh, blimey, it's ruined the music business," but it hasn't. It hadn't. It meant places opened up so people could play music there that hadn't been there. I mean, at the time that punk turned up, if you wanted to get out there and do gigs, you had to find a few quid from the record company to pay to be on a tour with the band, be it Rod Stewart or whoever. So that would be your contribution to sound and lights. So you'd give them a load of money and you'd be on tour with them.
Yeah.
But of course, then we discovered that the record company wanted it back.
that little hidden thing in the contract, that little hidden clause.
Yeah, there's no. Oh, no, I was going to say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but
Yeah. That's such a familiar story. I know. I know. But
well,
you know, I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah, the zombies film, which has Argent in it. The zombies film is about all of those things. I mean, the zombies went to Manila from London and did several days, maybe several weeks in Manila to huge crowds every night and got paid something like 50 quid between them for the whole time they were there.
Wow.
And that happened an awful lot. I mean, if people are, nobody ever wants to own up about that sort of thing because they don't want to look stupid, but it happened a lot. We,
Yeah.
we played in we played in a dance hall, and the guy was auditioning us, and the room was packed with people who became famous guitarists, and we we had well everybody had to pay half a crown to get in, which was nothing at all, but nobody got paid, and it was just. But that's what we did. We wanted to play, and we didn't
Yeah.
care. I mean, I don't know anybody, and I'm sure Dave will agree with me. I don't know anybody who got into music to make money. We got into music to make music. That's why we were there, and we
Yeah.
did it. And the money was irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and to a much on a much smaller scale for someone like myself, it's the joy you get from playing the music, and it's
Yeah,
never, yeah, it's never about the money. It's yeah.
no, it isn't, and I'm pretty sure it's never going to be.
Yeah. You're right. You're right as far as people getting into it. And but I think you make a very good point, Bob, about at the same time, it's just you hear these awful stories about bands like the Zombies and really every band from that era
Oh
being
yeah,
taken advantage of, and they're
including the Beatles. Yeah,
including the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and
yeah.
everybody who signed that first deal where they just the record company or the manager took 95% of what the band made. And
If you were lucky,
if yeah,
it's true,
yeah,
absolutely true. Who'd have
yeah.
thought?
I know.
And we're still talking about it, and we're still having fun with it.
But in the case of the Zombies, did the songwriters at least own the publishing? I mean, were they able
Yeah,
to?
they did. Rod and Chris did okay out of it,
Good. Okay. Yeah.
which is good. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's just part of the deal. And I I'm I don't know if Dave Mattis would agree with me, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It was fun, and driving down the motorway at stupid o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning was fun. That's what we were in it for.
Yeah.
When we went, Argent went to New York in 1970, and we started a tour, and the first tour was 51 planes in 50 days. Now that is ridiculous. Who would have
Oh,
thought that anybody would
yeah.
be stupid enough to do that? But we all thought at the time, oh, this is how it goes. Yeah, we'll be doing this forever. We're going to be really tired.
And imagine, I know, and you were young and you know, you could do it at 20 years old, but
Yeah.
I mean, the thought of anything close to that now, it's just
Oh,
you're
it's
back.
impossible. It would
Yeah.
kill you.
Yeah.
You would die. That's definitely it. There's a
Yeah.
story about, I'll shut up after this, but there's a story about Fillmore East, which was New York. And we were playing there. We were on with the Moody Blues. Place was packed, and there was a bomb scare.
Oh boy.
So we had to stop playing. Everybody left the theater and stood on the pavement. So we're chatting to all these people on the pavement. And then we went, when it was clear, we all went back in again. And it was 3,000 people left the theater and 5,000 people came back. Now, I've been agonizing for years. Did that happen every week, or did it happen every month, or had, I mean, it just seems to be the sort of thing that a New Yorker might do. But of course, they didn't have, nobody had any mobile phones then,
Yeah.
except maybe if you were in the military, you might have one. And so they managed to tell all their friends to come. And instead of 3,000 people in the audience, there were five.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it seemed like there were a lot of things like that you could do back then. There were,
Yeah,
yeah, they're not the sort of checks and balances, for lack of a better expression.
yeah.
It's but
But
I
it
was
was
gonna say,
fun.
yeah, I was gonna say I miss the fun and the sort of looseness of things that you could do back then.
Well, it was
But
all brand new. That was the thing. And we were just, I mean, the world was open and you could go anywhere, more or less,
yeah.
and play anywhere. So we did.
Yeah, I'll bet that those must have been great times to be
It was.
traveling and
It really was. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm still writing travel logs, mainly because I don't know when to stop. Now there is an opportune moment to stop, but I don't want to think about that. But
So are you going to publish them in one book? Are you thinking you'll do that
yeah,
or
one of them is called On the Road Again, after Kerouac.
yeah.
The other one is called Have You Come Far? And that's touring the world with the family, my kids and my wife. And if you were to bump into Her Majesty the Queen walking down the road in Windsor, and she came over to talk to you, she would say, "Have you come far?" Now you can't say "Have you come far?" without sounding like the Queen. It's impossible. Have you come far? So the Queen would ask you if you'd come far. And by the time you realised the Queen was talking to you, and that was the Queen, she would have moved on to somebody else, the guy next to you, and would say, "Have you come far?" And so anyway, so one of the books is called "Have You Come Far?"
Oh, that's great. I have a crazy segue to a Queen story, if you'll let me tell it.
Go on then.
Okay, and this is true. To the best of my knowledge, what I'm about to tell you is 100% accurate. Now, this would have been, oh gosh, this had to be 20 years ago. I was staying in Windsor. I'd been there to do
Oh,
one of our little
oh, to
Zildjian.
Zildjian, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And I was staying at the Windsor Castle Hotel, right
Oh, yeah.
across from the castle
Yeah.
itself, right there in the main road. And at the end of the road, so if you're facing the castle from the hotel to the right, it takes you over to it takes you toward Ascot, I think. And
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah.
but you know how there's a park at the end of that road. There's like a it's behind the castle. It's like the long walk, they call it, or the
Oh,
long
yes,
road.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would go running down there. I would go for a jog down there in the morning. And one Sunday morning, I got up. It was a beautiful day in March. And I went for a jog down the road. And I'd done this, many times when I'd gone, stayed in Windsor. And on this particular day, I went, I think it was a mile or something down to the end where there's a fence and then you come back up again. And it's a gravel road. And so I'm on my way back now and I hear a car coming behind me and I can hear it on the gravel road. And it sounds like it's coming faster and faster. So I kind of move over to my left and a black Audi station wagon goes flying by me and kicks up gravel, because it was at such a high rate of speed. And it looked like a woman was behind the wheel driving it and another person in the front seat. And I heard all these people were up, they're out for a walk and they were on their mobile phones saying, "I just saw the Queen. I just saw the Queen." And I stopped and said to someone, "Was that the Queen driving that car?" And they said, "Yes, that was the Queen." So I almost got run over by the Queen. And it was Mothering Day. It was
All
Mother's
right.
Day. And yeah. So, and I think she had come from the quarters that are maybe back at the end of the road where I don't know what the logistics were, but I'm fairly certain that was her that drove past me.
Was she wearing a headscarf?
I think she was wearing a hat. I couldn't really see if she's wearing a headscarf. It looked like a woman behind the wheel wearing a hat. But again, this is 20 years ago, and it was a black Audi wagon. I remember that. And it was going really fast.
If the Queen, this is on the same subject, but if the Queen decided she'd had enough of one of her subjects who wouldn't leave her alone while she was walking, she would transfer her shoulder bag from one shoulder to the other. And all the minions and all the minders would see this, and they'd steer the person who was driving the Queen mad away from the Queen. All she had to do was put her bag on the other shoulder.
I love that. That was the signal.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh,
bless her.
Yeah, great. I told Tina that story later that day. I think I called her and said, I think I had read or someone had said to me that and I think even seeing some of the documentaries that she liked to drive. She preferred to.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Not be driven, but to drive herself. Yeah. So it's my one almost meeting with the Queen. So
yeah, very close.
Close call. Yeah.
Could have got run over.
Yeah.
I was run over by the Queen.
Yeah. Serves me right for running, on a road maybe I shouldn't have been on, but anyway.
All right,
It was a fun day, fun adventure. But Bob, it's so good to chat with you, and I so appreciate you wanting to
Thank you.
talk about this and share your situation, your experience.
Well, I as far as Parkinson's is concerned, it's in its early days with me, and but it's not getting it. People are still contracting the disease, and it's still out there, and it really does. I mean, when they told me I had Parkinson's, they actually said, so how do you feel now? And I didn't know what to say. I said, well, nobody's ever told me I had a life-changing disease before, so I'm not sure how I should feel. Mm. And anyway, that was several years ago, and I'm just getting on with it, really. But while I could still write, I can still do that, and I'll be at the King's Convention.
Well, that's great.
I'll be the one at the back, the drummer.
Of course.
That's where we are.
Where they put us, yeah.
Know your place, you drummer.
But it's great you're continuing to do all the things that you do. I think that's so great. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm doing my best. But we've now moved, the lovely Ricky and I, to an apartment, which means we have a lift, and so it's not quite so bad. But
yeah, good.
For me, these guys that I meet, the musicians with the Parkinson's, and they all still drink, and I'm in admiration that they're not frightened. I'm really frightened of having a beer because I'm going to fall over.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end up in hospital. We don't want that.
That's the smart way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm teetotal now.
That's
Except
okay.
Maybe tonight. No, I'm only kidding.
Well, I'm going to have you back. Maybe when, I don't know when your next book is going to be out, but I'll stay in touch, and I would love to have you back when. Yeah,
I know where you live.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for having me, and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
And don't know how we do this. Can we do this? Yeah, we can.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Bob. Everybody, thank you for watching, and a big hand for the great, legendary Bob Henrit. Just Britain's favorite son. Beloved national treasure. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. Well, thanks for that. Can you put that in writing, please?
I will put that in writing. Indeed. I will put that in writing. Treasure. All right. Okay. Well, hang with me for 1 second, Bob. I'll end the stream and we'll say goodbye in the room. But thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see y'all real soon. Big hand for Bob. All right. That's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also download the podcast on all podcast platforms. And I'm excited to tell you that Live from My Drum Room has been ranked #1 best drum podcast for the second straight year. So thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. And I want to invite you to check out livefrommydrumroom.com, my website, for upcoming shows and also for information on ordering Live from My Drum Room merchandise, t-shirts and hoodies. 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society. There's also information on ordering merchandise in the show notes. And you can email or text me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. So remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you again real soon.